Baruch Hashem, thank you guys for coming. Baruch Hashem, thank you to our anonymous sponsor in honor of the return of all of the hostages, right? That was it. We should see them come home healthy, alive, and immediately. And we should eliminate and destroy our enemy. This week's parasha is Parashat Terumah. Parashat Terumah. And the parasha, we just had the sequence of Yetziat Mitzrayim. 2 weeks ago we received the Torah. Last week, Mishpatim, we received 53 mitzvot from the Torah. Now we go into the construction of the Mishkan. There's a 2-week parasha, Terumah Tetzaveh, that discussed the blueprints of the Mishkan. Then we have Kitisa, that's the Chet HaEgel and other significant things in there. Then again, the book of Shemot concludes with 2 more parashot about the actual building of the Mishkan. So this is the first of the 4 parashot that pertain to the construction of the Mishkan. And in the beginning, the parasha begins, Daber b'nei Yisrael ve'ikchuli terumah. Speak to the b'nei Israel, the children of Israel, and take for me a terumah. Take for me some sort of donation. Terumah literally means to raise, but it's talking about things that you separate and you donate towards the Mishkan. There was a tax that they put upon all of the Am Yisrael, a relative speaking tax. They all contributed money towards the construction of the Mishkan. Okay? And the Torah uses a unique word, ve'ikchuli terumah. Take for me a terumah, a donation. The $1 million question is, what's veikhu? Why does the Torah say, and take for me? It should say, veitnu, give. We don't take donations. They should give their donations. What does it mean? They should take for me a terumah. No, it's veitenu li terumah, and they should give me a terumah, a donation. What's this unique language of veikhu? So I might have said this in the past, but there's an amazing story that I read in this book about, there was once a girl, there was in Israel, a high-tech company that wanted to hire a new secretary. They put out job listings. 2 women were in the final stages of their interviewing. There was a woman married to an avrech. Avrech is someone who's learning in kollel. They don't have much money. They don't have much income. Usually the women in those families support the household. She applied for this job in this high-tech company as a secretary. Obviously, they had a few kids. The husband was still learning, and they were much more desperate for the money. They needed the money for their family. It was a senior position in this high-tech company. This woman was a woman that had 6 children. Okay, 6 children. Her husband was studying in kollel. Next to her was another lady, single, younger woman, hasn't gotten married, hasn't yet built her home yet. Also applying for this same job. No husband, no expenses, no children, still in her young 20s, or let's say around even younger, looking for her job. At first, the wife of the avrech, the rabbi's wife, enters for the interview. And after a few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, she comes out, and that was that. Next, the single girl enters for the interview, and they fell in love with her. The company, the bosses, the high-tech, it was the religious company in high-tech. They really wanted her. A, because she was single, so she would have more time for the company. But B, she was really qualified. She was fit for the job. And the salary was 10,000 shekel a month. Great salary for someone living in Israel. And in her interview, at the end of the interview, they said, we really like you. We're not even going to let you go home. We want to extend this offer for you. This girl, the single girl, thinks and says, let me get back to you. Okay, no problem. She goes home that night. She gets home. Next morning, they call back. She thinks about it. The company calls back and says, we really want to hire you. Please let us know your decision. On top of the $10,000 shekel a month salary, we want to also give you different benefits and expenses towards your travel, different expenses on us. Different benefits. She really thinks about it and she says, after my second thought, I'm honored that you guys want to give me the job. I'm honored. I really love the company. I really love the situation. But there was another woman that I met in the lobby before you called us in, and she needs the job much more than I do. She's married with 6 children. Expenses are getting high, and this is a great job for her. It's a raise from her previous job, and she can definitely use it. I don't need it as much. I want you to give it to the wife of the Avrech with 6 children that need the money more. And the owner of the company was startled. What? But we want you. It's okay. I'm rejecting. I'm declining this job on condition that you give it to her. I know she was in the last round of interviews as well, so I know she's qualified. I want you to give it to her. And the owner tried convincing her. They offer 10% more signing bonus. My answer is no. That's my answer. Please respect my answer. On condition that you give her the job. And lo and behold, they agreed. The company agreed. They gave the first girl, the married woman with 6 children, the job, and she continued on her way. But we all know that's not how this story is going to end. Hashem has a plan for everything. 2 days later, she gets a phone call, the single girl. She picks up the phone, hello, and it was a very familiar voice. It was the boss that interviewed her with her spouse, with his spouse. They said, we fell in love with you at the interview. We really wanted you to work in our office. But what you did by declining the job and giving it to that woman that needed it because of her 6 children separated you from the rest of the pact. We don't want you to hire you. We know we know you rejected that offer, but we want to know if you're willing to marry our son. She was shaken. What do you mean? We have a son that's in Shidduchim as well. The midot, the character, the personality that you displayed supersedes anyone else that we've gotten recommended for him. We want you to try and go on a date with our son. She agrees to go on a date. 3 months later, engaged. 3 months later, they're married. She went from working at this company to being a part owner of this company.
That's crazy.
True story, happened in Tel Aviv. And win-win, obviously. And the idea is very simple. When we give, we're not actually giving, but we're really taking. And that's why the parasha begins, Daber b'nei Yisrael ve'ikhu li terumah. Speak to Bnei Yisrael and take from me a donation. Take from me a terumah. Why? Because it's not actually giving. Anytime we give, we're actually taking. And that's the lesson of the beginning of this parasha. That's the lesson of the construction of the Mishkan. The Mishkan was built off donations. But it wasn't Bnei Yisrael giving. Anyone who donated was really taking. And that's the lesson. This is a beautiful, powerful story that highlights that. But this applies to all of us in our daily lives as well. Anytime we think we're giving, we're actually taking. Hashem invested in us. He gave us parnasa. 10% of that, at least, doesn't belong to us. It's a pikadon. He gave the money to us to hold collateral and decide what we're doing with that money. So when we're giving, we're proving to God that, God, I'm reliable for you to give me that pikadon, that collateral. See how I invest that money elsewhere. Oh, you give charity, you give tzedakah, you support Torah, you support people who in need. You deserve more because I know you do good with that money. And when we give, we're actually just taking more. That's why it says veikhu, because taking is actually it's not actually taking, it's really giving, and it's interchangeable. And that's the lesson of this week's parasha. When it comes to giving tzedakah, when we give our charity, we have to understand that I'm giving this money now, but I'm really the one that's going to take. Hashem has an exact balance sheet. He knows exactly how much we give, and based on everything we give, we actually get. So it's a short-term give, but it's a long-term take. That applies to the building of the Mishkan. That applies today as well when we give our tzedakah. It's a very powerful lesson, and this line is Kishetormim, when we donate, when we give, Ze rak nir'eh shenotnim. It seems as if we're giving, but really aval be'etzem, but in actuality, in honesty, rak lokchim, we're actually taking. And that's a lesson for us. That's a lesson that we should live by, especially in our young days when we don't have much expenses and it's easier to give. When we start learning to give tzedakah at a young age, when you get older and you make more money, it's easier to give. So start now, even if you're making a little amount, you separate the maaser, you give tzedakah. Hashem will continue to bless you and give you more, and you'll be able to give maaser and more. And the biggest dream anyone can have is to give $1 million of maaser. If you're giving $1 million of maaser, that means you're making $10 million profit. So the more maaser you're giving, it's a bigger bracha, and you're actually taking more because Hashem is investing in you more later on. And that's the lesson from this. One of the many lessons of this week's parasha. We should internalize it. We're not really giving, but we're actually taking. Ve'ikhu li terumah. Chazaku baruch.